Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay, that's
We're good. Yeah.
That's what's important.
Yeah. Okay, so normally I'm up and about and jumping around and things like that, and that makes it more fun and enjoyable and engaging. So that's one end of the pole. The other end of the pole is producing a video that you guys can rewatch in terms of the lectures. Okay, so I've been doing that for my other courses. I haven't done that for 1412. And so I'd like to get a semester of lectures for 1412 put together. And so I'm going to be sort of trapped right here in terms of trying to draw on the screen. It's nice. I do have this nice pad, so when we're doing the math and so on, I can do it up here instead of on the board. And if you can't see because you're in the back, you can watch that video again when you get to Blackboard after a couple of hours after class and it's posted, and then you can see the notes again and go through the whole process. So I don't like it that I'm kind of trapped up front, but I think it will produce a better study tool for you because you'll be able to go back and go through those videos and know exactly what I'm trying to teach you and what I'm testing you on. Okay. So let's jump in to what we'll learn this semester and all the details of the syllabus. So you remember Mistress Mac, you know that guy? He always says, I'm going to save you money. Well, I'm going to save you money, okay? There's two options for the textbook, okay? Some folks transfer in. They took this at another school. They took the first semester at another school. And then we require this other book with Brown, LeMay, and Burston, produced by Pearson, and it's an expensive book. And so if you don't have that book, then you can use the OpenStax book. Okay, the OpenStax book is a free book. It's totally online. You can search through the whole book. If there's a vocabulary word you don't know, you go onto the OpenStax book, and you can search for that, and you can find your vocabulary words and so on right away. You might want to use both. Maybe you have the Pearson book, and you want to see what the OpenStax book is like. You want to try example problems in both. That's totally fine. If you already have the Brown book from the first semester, you can keep using that too. You don't have to use either one of these. Okay. But I wanted to make sure that you knew that you had an option. Some of my figures will come from either book. So freshman chemistry is pretty set in terms of its curriculum. So any freshman chemistry book is going to be 95% the same. Okay, so if you don't worry about seeing a figure on the screen, it's not in your particular book. It's the concepts are the same in both books. Okay, so we're going to have 4 sections of the course. Part 1 is going to be on gases, liquids, solids, topics like the ideal gas law, densities of gases, and partial pressures. We're going to use the pressure, volume, temperature relationships to do stoichiometry. So you learn stoichiometry in the first semester. We'll start out with some review of that, the limiting reagent problems, and those things. Then we get into liquid properties and solid properties and phase changes. I'm going to really emphasize liquid properties where we talk about the different forces that hold molecules together, like dispersion forces, polar forces, and hydrogen bonding. So that's a really big concept that I'm going to emphasize. And this is a good time to say that if you look at those books, there's going to be topics in those texts that I don't cover. It's just too much to try to cover everything. And some of those topics can be learned by reading. So I'm going to emphasize in class the things that are not necessarily learnable by reading. The problems you have to do. And so we'll do a lot of problems in class, but chemistry is not just problems. It's also vocabulary and concepts. And some of those concepts you can learn by reading. So I will put in the Blackboard pages, like Blackboard, what sections we're covering, what you can read. Okay, so some of those concepts I really like for you to try to prepare for lecture by reading those sections. That's not a lot of reading, but if you prepare and read those things before class, and let me close the door. So there's 2 ways to go through college. And one way is to try to do it just by going to lecture. And you go to lecture and you hear a bunch of stuff and you don't quite understand some of the terms and so on. And then later you go to study and try to figure out what it was I said. And you can't remember what I said. That's where the videos come in. But you go back and you go to the text. Now, the other way to do it is to read ahead a little bit. Download the notes ahead, read the text ahead. You'll be encountering some concepts you don't quite understand, but then when you come to lecture, I'll be explaining things you've already thought about. That's a game changer. I didn't learn that till I was a junior, maybe like first semester senior, okay? And it just flipping that idea of trying to get ahead of the professor in class. And this works in every class, not just this class, but it really works in this class. If you get ahead of me, not too far ahead of me, just ahead of me by, reading those sections or going one lecture ahead, and looking at the notes, it'll prime that pump. And then when you come here, you'll get it much better, and it'll be a better way to tackle the course. Part 2, solutions and kinetics. So this is where we start to put some numbers to concentrations of solutions. We talk about what makes the compound soluble or insoluble. And then we get into change over time, reaction rates, and rate laws, and change of concentration over time. So that section, I think, is pretty straightforward. There's some confusing concepts in terms of concentration units, and how if you have something that's like 1 molar sodium sulfate, there's 2 sodiums for every one of those compounds, and so it's 2 molar in the sodium ion and 1 molar in the sulfate ion. So there's some concepts in there that throw people every time, and so I'll emphasize those. And so that's really the only trick in some of these concentration pieces. Then part 3, this is the most difficult part of the course. And this is where it really hurts to be out of sync with the lab a little bit. You will do some equilibrium stuff in the lab before we get to it in class. Okay? It's just the way the schedule works out. So use that lab time to try to get ahead of class, read ahead, look in the book. Here's the 3 chapters on equilibrium things. And so when you're in that lab portion of the course and you're doing equilibrium and you seem lost, here are your 3 chapters. So you can go there and you can read up on those concepts. And so you kind of get a try at it in lab, and then we go through it in lecture, and then you have an exam on it. So you will have seen it twice before you get to the exam. So that's a bonus. Okay. But this is the most difficult part of the course, I think, is the equilibrium, because you have a lot of algebra involved, and you've got to figure out how far the reaction goes and so on, equilibrium constants, etc. And then part 4, this course ends on a sort of an exciting note. We start talking about electricity, batteries, nuclear power. And so we're going to talk about our power grid. We're going to talk about the chemistry related to generating electricity for our devices and so on. So that's the final part of the course. And notice the chapters don't always line up. So the OpenStax chapters and the Brown chapters are going to be different. And so I've labeled them accordingly. So how's the course organized? Well, you can always find the syllabus on Blackboard. It looks like that. That's the link. And here's the current syllabus. And I will always update that link there with the current syllabus. If there's a mistake in the syllabus or something that's confusing, I'll put in the header or the footer what was changed and the date, and then I'll upload the most current version. There shouldn't be major changes, just minor changes. Okay, the laboratory. The laboratory in this course is handled by Dr. Hedgewood and your TA. So this is just the lecture, and the Blackboard site that I run is just the lecture Blackboard. So if you have any questions about the lab, I really am not your person. So talk to Dr. Hedgewood, but also go to your TA first. Get to know your TA. Sometimes I get an email from students and they say, ask me a question about the lab, and I say, who's your TA? And they say, I have no idea. So get their name, get their email, get their contact information. It's all they're going to tell you the first day of lab, which begins in a couple of weeks. So we're not having lab this week. It'll be a couple of weeks before lab. Then there's a weekly schedule. I used to have the Blackboard site set up by topic, okay, which I thought was an organized way of doing things. But after COVID, the students were just like, what do I do and where do I go? And you've got stuff everywhere. And so I really had to lock down the organization of the course to make it easier for the students. And it worked so well, I still do it that way. So every week you have a folder. And so you know where all the material is, it's in that weekly folder. And you have a schedule that you can download, this PDF here that has the whole semester lined out. You go put it on your calendar. If you have Outlook, you can set the reminders for various things like exams and so on. And you can set those reminders like a week in advance. So you're cruising along, you check your email in the morning, and Outlook pops up with a reminder that says you have an exam in 1 week. And so that's kind of nice. So get used to using those tools. So you can download the full schedule here, and then I have pieces of it broken apart in each week's folder. So if you click on this week 1, that's where we are now. This is what you see inside. You see that today's lecture is lecture 1, syllabus and course overview, and then on Wednesday we start talking about gas properties and the ideal gas law. This is everything you need to download or print, and here's your readings. So for this week, read the following sections of your chosen textbook. So I've got the chapter and the sections for Brown and the chapter and sections for OpenStax. You can print those lecture handouts for the week. Here's a lecture handout right there. And where do we print? Well, your fees have paid for the paper and the ink over in the computer labs. And so here's the computer labs. There's one in the library, the NGL, and there's one in the Humanities and Social Sciences building. So this is CFS, so I call it chicken fried steak, and then they built CHSS, and we call that cheese steak. So that's the cheese steak building diagonally over there. And they have a computer lab there that's open till midnight, 7 a.m. to midnight, and the library is open 7:30 to midnight most days. To print those notes off, you can print them off. They're already printed to PDF, and you just print off the PDFs. And it's 2 slides per page, and there's gaps missing. So you can go through and you can kind of fill in the important things that are left out. Then there's weekly homework, and those are, about 10 questions. It's not a lot, okay? Some vocabulary, some problems, and so on. So you print out the homework quiz here. This is what it looks like. So a lot of them are going to be, just like fill in the blank, do the problem, and you get the number. And then you go on to Blackboard and you enter those answers. And if you get it wrong, then you figure out what you did wrong and then come back. I've put some hints if you get it wrong, like you should probably use Kelvin instead of Celsius in gas law equations and things like that. So if you put in a Celsius it may ask for Celsius temperature, but you got to do the problem in Kelvin and then change it back to Celsius. So that's life. Okay. And so, you got, and like here, we're converting from PSI to atmospheres and pascals and all of that stuff. So work the homework. I would say work the homework in a composition book. Okay. Or spiral, doesn't matter, but I like composition books. So they're nice and bound and so on. And then when you're working out the homework, write out your steps. Like, don't worry about using up a lot of paper. It's your book. If you don't sort of give yourself breadcrumbs, when you go back to study those problems for the exam, you're not going to know what you did. So don't just do the problem with showing the math, right? It's not just scratch paper. It's actually a study guide. So when you're doing a problem, write out your assumptions, say, okay, the constant volume, constant temperature, change in pressure gives me this change in whatever. Okay. And then you go and enter it on the quiz. You click the quiz. You take a little Blackboard test. It just has the answers, and you type them in. If you're going to type in a number, like an scientific notation number, fantastic. Did it skip anybody? Anyone? Okay, come on up there. So on this quiz here, if you wanted to write Avogadro's number, you would write 6.022, and you'd use a capital E plus 23. So Blackboard knows that E stands for times 10 to the. And so you can just enter it that way, and it'll understand that that's scientific notation. Yes?
Do we have to put the plus?
I don't know. I know you have to put the minus. Yeah, I know you have to put the minus, but you probably don't have to put the plus. Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, and then I put in a flex of about 5%. So if you round differently than I do, it's not going to be counted wrong.
Cool.
Okay. Now this first quiz, I was trying to get it all put up there quickly, and I couldn't get the problems that I did on the quiz builder to go into Blackboard as numerical problems. Okay, so they were going in as text, so it had to be exact, the same. And I didn't want to do that, so I just flipped it to all multiple choice. So you're going to do these numerical problems, and you're going to get numerical answers. But when you go take the quiz on Blackboard, it's going to be choose from these 5 numbers. So it ought to be really easy this week, because you'll have a choice of 5 numbers, and you'll be able to pick the one that was closest to your answer. Okay, so anyway. So where do you go when you need help with the material? All right, so the first step is to go to those lecture notes and the videos. Okay, rewatch those sections that pertain to the question that you have. The second step is those sections of the textbook. And I'm dramatically outnumbered here. There's 58 of you. Okay, yeah, so 58 of you. And so find study groups in here, find friends, okay? And I mean, they don't necessarily have to be your friends, but they can be study group partners, right? And just get together and study together, because y'all have the same deadlines, y'all have the same material, you have some of the same schedule, and so on. So definitely form study groups. Go over to the Academic Success Center. If you commute in and really can't take advantage of studying like at the Success Center or finding groups and so on, and you want to sort of study on your own and learn on your own, I've been really impressed with the tutorial videos at Clutch Prep. Okay, I don't get anything from them. There's nothing to disclose, but they have a lot of good worksheets and videos related to Chem 2 and Chem 1 and organic as well.
Is it free?
No, it's not. There's a free trial that goes for, I don't remember how long the free trial is, but it's about $30 a month. Okay, that sounds like a lot, but if you're paying a tutor, which again, if you can't take advantage of the Academic Success Center, where are you going to get tutoring if you're commuting in? Okay.
Chegg is a little cheaper.
It may be, but I've known Chegg to be very, there's a lot of mistakes on there. Yeah. Whereas this is vetted. It's really good material. Yeah. So anyway, that's a kind of a commercial for Clutch Prep, but again, I don't get anything from them. I used them during COVID for this course as a requirement, because the students were isolated at home or wherever, and they had to have access to tutoring. And so that's when we did a trial on that. And then I'm behind all of these things because I'm juggling 2 courses in research and the Senate and committee work and so on. So if you send me a specific email question, I can answer that. If you send me a generic question, like, can you explain, a generic concept or whatever, that's going to be a really long, difficult email to write. We can have office hours, and my office hours are at 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Zoom, but other times by appointment. And so if you send me an email and say, look, I'd really like to, I just am not understanding the equilibrium constant, say, okay, that's a very generic question. Like, what is it that you don't understand? Maybe 20 minutes or so on Zoom can really knock that out. And so, but that's also, you can go to the Academic Success Center and schedule a chemistry tutor, and they'll be able to explain the same thing. They have lots of hours covered with lots of tutors, and trying to find a time to Zoom with me is going to be tough. I'll tell you that honestly. Okay. How will grades be computed? There will be, these are the 4 categories: attendance, homework, laboratory, and exam average. And so sign in the roster as your attendance score. And so it's just going to be however many days you've signed, okay, divided by the max days that someone has in the course, right? It's not the number of days of class, because, maybe there's 41 class periods and everybody's missed 1, say, okay? Well, then that's going to be the maximum, okay? Now, the university gives you three free absences, okay? So that's the doctor appointment, or the car didn't start, or alarm didn't go off, or whatever, or the university sporting event or something. You're on a travel team, and so I don't need any doctor's notes or anything like that. Just sign the roster when you're here, and you'll get your days. Okay. Homework points. So every week we'll have a different number of problems. Like sometimes I get inspired, and we'll try to do 10. as a minimum, but sometimes I think, oh, there's 2 more that I really want to do, so it'll be 12. Okay, and so it'll just be added up 1 point apiece, how many problems you got right over the semester, divided by the max number that anybody got. And so if I write a really crummy problem that nobody gets, nobody's penalized. The lab average comes from Dr. Hedgewood. Again, they'll be supplied to me at the end of the semester after you take your lab final. And then there's 5 exams, and so you just go through, they're all equally weighted with the final. And so this is your weighted average. I try to aim kind of at the same grade cutoffs you may be familiar with, 90 and above A, 80 to 90 B, 70 to 80 C. Sometimes the D cutoff will slip around, 65 or what have you. And so I will sort of look at average performance and see, let's say that class average is a 68 and not a 70, okay? Then I'll move C down to 68, okay? So I will curve up, I won't curve down. Right. So I'm not going to say if y'all make 80s and above to say, well, we got to have some C's. Right? By definition, average is a C, so 85, sorry, that's a C. No, I'm not going to do that. At the end, when you're trying to see if you're going to get that 70, or 69.5, so I round up, and you're trying to ask me what is the grade on the final that I need to make to hit that point, okay, that's the one algebra problem you guys are the most motivated to solve, and I won't do it for you because you got it all right here. That's golden, right? You this is the unknown, right? And at that point in the semester, you know all of these other data points, right? And you know that maybe you know the lab average. You should by that time, and so you know all of those knowns, and you have one unknown, and you want 70. You can solve that algebra problem. Yes.
Do you curve exams? And do you offer extra credit?
I don't offer extra credit. I typically let it roll until the end, instead of curving individual exams. Now if I totally screw up a problem and ask something that clearly what I thought was a clearer problem was just a disaster, I'll typically do multiple choice for like 90% of the test or 80% of the test, and I'll ask 1 or 2 written pieces because I want to see you think, okay? But on those thinking questions, if I ask something totally out of left field and it just hits nobody, then I'll probably curve that. It's pretty rare, but I will. Again, if I think that I've written a poor exam, then I'll move the average of what I think is average performance. Yeah, but at the end of the semester, if the average class is coming in at 68 or 69, then I'll dump, the C level down to that. And if I'm looking at sort of the distribution and I have this group of people and it's like, these are my 80s and that guy's a 79 and then there's like a 2-point gap and there's a 76, there's a big gap right there. And this person is behaving in their grades like the B group, not the C group. You see what I'm saying? So I might move that cutoff from 80 to 79 if there's a gap right below that person. So I kind of look to see that sometimes natural gaps show up, and there's this gap between that B group and the C group. And so I look at it very carefully and try to figure out how you're performing in the course and sort of, what grade grouping are you going into? Yes.
You mentioned B's and C's a lot. What are the likelihoods that people make A's in your class?
Oh, good. Yeah. Same with if there's an A group and in the B group and there's an 89, I just use B's and C's, but it could be an 89 and they're behaving like the A group and there's a big gap and the next grade is an 86, then maybe that 89 is an A. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, some things to keep things fair during the exams. A few years back, they were using calculators that had USB ports, and they pretty much had all the solubility laws loaded in there and all these kinds of things that other people had to memorize. And we didn't think that was fair, and so we said, let's just lock it down to the TI-30 calculator. It's a scientific calculator, fairly inexpensive, and so you can get one of those, and that's the one that we're going to use on the exams. So if that's the situation, you want to get one now and use it on the homework, okay? Because you got to practice with the game ball. right? You don't want to do your homework on a TI-83 or on your phone, and then you get to the exam and you're using this, and you can't remember how to do a scientific notation. Okay, so if you don't practice with this calculator, then you're just really hurting yourself on game day, right? When you come in to take an exam, it's going to slow you down. You're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes on problems you know how to do. That's bad. It'd be like giving an NBA guy a free throw, but giving him a volleyball to use. Totally different weight. Totally, everything's different about that. So you don't want to do that. And so then the exams will be multiple choice. They'll have a multiple choice section. They use this 882 form. So find those on campus. And so that's going to be for our exams. Though this is a big enough group, on exam day I'll come in with 2 versions of the exam. It's just they're different order questions and stuff. And so we'll have like version A and then version B, and then version A and then version B, and so on. And that just keeps people from having the chiropractic fits, while they look at everything, around them. And so you got to really look over a whole row to see someone with your same order of questions and so on. But they are the same questions, they're just different orders. And so you really have to stare long and hard to try to figure out which one they're on. And I'll catch you by then. Okay, so yeah. So anyway, yeah. And then attendance policies. You sign the roster. Now, there are some ways to screw this up. Forgetting to sign the roster, not wanting to interrupt me. If the roster's up here and you come in a few minutes late, don't do that. Just come up and sign it, okay? Get credit for being here. And then signing for someone else, that's bad. You get 0 for both parties. Don't lie. Your reputation is worth way more than that, okay? That just really, that's worse than you think it is. And then freaking out about attendance, like sending me thousands of emails about attendance. It's 1/40th of 1/20th of your grade, a particular day, okay? So if you miss a day, just roll with it. It's not a problem. You get 3 free. And if you miss the 4th, it's 1/40th of 1/20th of your grade. Okay? So it's sort of, because it's a frequent thing, people get focused on it and they like obsess. I don't want you to obsess. You don't need to. Just chill out. Okay? And then exams are important. That's the thing that's where 60% of your grade is the exam. So try your best not to miss. So if you have an unreliable car, maybe ride with a friend. If it's 11 o'clock, so maybe, get with a friend and come in for their 8 o'clock class and study here rather than oversleeping and so on. I've had people miss an 11 o'clock exam because their alarm didn't go off, and I'm thinking, whoa, go to bed earlier. And so then academic dishonesty, that's mainly during exams in this course. And PChem, it's more like copying people's lab reports and stuff. So it's a serious thing. We take it very seriously at SAM, and we don't want you to get mixed up in that. So do your own work. You'll respect yourself way more if you do it the right way. Now, what's left? Let's get ready for Wednesday. So get ahead of me and read these sections of the book. Again, it's not that much. It looks like a lot of sections, 6 sections, but some of them are really short. Or the 3 sections, they're not all the same length, so you can't say, well, I'm reading that one because it's only 3 sections. It's pretty much the same length. Print those PDF handouts at the library or at the Cheesesteak Building and be ready. Look at them, kind of go through them and see what we're going to be talking about. Try to understand the graphs that are in there to see what we're discussing, and then you'll be ready. And when you come on Wednesday, you'll already kind of know what we're going to talk about, and then it'll make much more sense. And you'll come out of here, you'll be like, wow, I know something about gases, And instead, you'll be like, if you didn't do that, then you say, wow, he said a lot of stuff I didn't quite get. We don't want that situation. So what can I clear up for you? Please ask now, so your peers who have the same question can benefit, okay? Sometimes I say, I'll take questions, nobody says anything, you all leave, and then 5 or 6 people come up here and ask their question individually. And I get that. I don't want to be necessarily in the public eye with my question, but seriously, I guarantee the whole class will benefit from your questions.
Can you go to the last slide, please?
Yes. You looking at those sections? Or what?
That's what I'm
Yeah, okay, yeah. Very good. All right. Okay, what else? Yes.
So for the homework quizzes that are due Saturday night,
Yes.
would you prefer we did them like on a Friday night when we get through the whole week of lectures?
Yeah, that's a good point. Everybody's like, he's making us work on Saturdays. No, I'm not. I'm just making that convenient for folks that sometimes work during the week and have a Saturday off, or vice versa. So if you can get it done Friday night, absolutely, or even Thursday night. If you get ahead of me or whatever, then do it whenever you can. Always try to do stuff a little early, because you don't want to be there at 11:58 trying to get Blackboard to submit on something that you were done a day earlier. You could have submitted it early. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes,
Do you offer research opportunities?
I do. It's not this semester. Yeah. Plus, for $43.95, I think it's a little late for this semester, but like in the spring or in the summer, for sure. Yeah. My research is based on industrial cleaning and precision cleaning. So what does that mean? Like artificial hips or oxygen containing lines in spacecraft, or hard disks and computer disks. When something has to be perfectly clean, there's a lot of science involved in that and a lot of physical chemistry. And so I work a lot with industry. Most of my grants are small grants, like $1,000 or $2,000, because the normal research grant would be like $100,000 or something. And so I do small contracts with companies to help them with their cleaning problems. It's really important. Like one of the most famous cases was an artificial hip manufacturer that changed their cleaning process to save a couple of bucks. They brought it from a cleaning expert company to in-house to save a few dollars, and they had to recall 16,000 hips that were already in people. Yeah, so think about that. That company went under over that small decision. It was really a big decision, but they were saving. Most people focus on what they're making, not how clean it is. And so some of these situations will come in and catch people. Yes.
I guess my question is, are all the quizzes and homeworks already posted on Blackboard, or are they like a week ahead, or can we get ahead?
Yeah, so they turn on like on Wednesday. So next week's should turn on Wednesday. Like so, week 2 should appear. Yeah, so you could be 1 week ahead if you wanted to get that far. Yeah. Yes.
On the quiz slide, it said if you get it wrong, try again. Do you have multiple attempts?
Yeah, multiple attempts for that. Yeah. So just don't cheat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know why it's right, then it's wrong. So get that in your mind. Like getting a letter or the number right isn't good. I mean, that's you get the points,
mm-hmm.
right? But if you don't know why it's right, when you get to the test and it's a different number, you won't understand what to do. Yeah. Yes.
Will you have practice exams?
Yeah, let's see. The quizzes, I'm going to write the exam from the quizzes. And when you pass the due date of the quiz, you have access to all the right answers. Okay, so you can go in and study from those quizzes. And that'll be good prep for the exam. Now, I say I write them from them. For me, it's the same problem, but for you, it looks different, right? So in my mind, I think, oh, that's the same problem. It's going to be changed a little bit. And I think it's close. I always get that it's not, I understand if you miss it, you're like, that wasn't anywhere near what I saw before, but it really is conceptually very close to the homeworks. Yeah. I don't remember. I need to go on and look. I think it's 3. Yeah, I think it's 3. If you miss one, especially the numeric ones, it's probably not a rounding error. Okay. It's probably, and it's check the units, make sure that you're following the units. I'm really big on the written part of the exam, I'm really big on seeing the units. You'll get points, even if you did the wrong thing. You'll get some points for using units. Okay, so if you did totally the wrong problem, but you showed me how the units cancel, and you set up the equation, I'll be like, hey, that's a good skill. I'll give you some points for the skill. You showed me the equation. You told me the equation you were using. That was the wrong equation, but you showed me what you were doing. I mean, you're working it out. Or say you got the right equation. You get a couple of points for that, but just no units. Dinged on that. wrong answer, dinged on that, But if you got the right equation, you're going down the right path. Okay, so there's partial credit on those written ones. And so I'll try to run out a rubric for you guys that says units are worth so and so many % of that, equations worth so many points of that. And so that you can kind of say, all right, if I do my units and I do my equation, I'm getting, 50% of the written part. And that's great. It's not passing, but it's close, right? And if you get the answer, then you got it. Yes. They start this week, yeah. On some of the gas law calculations, change the pressure, what happens to the volume, convert PSI to atmospheres, things like that. Try to get that unit conversion pump working again. There's a bit on partial pressures, which we won't cover until Friday. So you're going to have to kind of get ahead of me on that. It's real easy. Partial pressures add up to the total pressure. But you're going to have to look into the notes and maybe read those sections to do the partial pressure questions on the homework. Yeah. Great questions. Yeah, great. Okay, that person who wants to ask the question after everybody leaves. Okay. No. And they are all at once, so it's not like one question at a time and randomized or anything like that. So, yes. I like them to be 3 points apiece. Okay. And so I'll work out a thing where, so there'll be like 33 questions, but I'll take, say, 3 questions off and make those 9 points the written part. So it might be 30 multiple choice and a 9-point written part. Make sense? And then if it's a big problem, like an equilibrium problem, I might take off, 6 questions or something like that and make the written part bigger. Okay, so it'll be some balance, but on the multiple choice pieces, I like those to be about 3 points apiece. Now the final will be 50 questions, so they're 2 points apiece. And that gives me a chance to cover more material and reduce the individual penalty for missing one.
Is it like a written person?
Yeah, it's the whole semester. But this semester really builds. But it's something that that way I can, if you miss, let's say you had a sickness or something for an exam, I can take that exam percentage and I can just say, all right, we'll hold off on, say, exam 2 for you and count the final twice. So since exam 2's material is going to be on the final, you'll get tested on that material. Yeah.
Can I offer a resource real quick?
Yeah.
All right. So for all my classes, I've been doing this for a while. I make a document of all the notes. So if you miss a day of class, you can just go to the document, see what you missed and things like that. If you want a link to that, just after class, come over here, put your SHSU email, and I'll send you the link.
Or you could use the email all in Blackboard.
I don't like to impose it on people.
Okay.
And
That's
also
fair.
it also makes people if they see it, they're just gonna spam it.
Okay.
So this time they're on the lookout for it.
Fair enough. All right. What's your name again?
D.
D?
D.
Okay. So find D afterwards.
Yeah. It's completely student, no teacher, so don't.
Peering in there.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, I can give it to you.
No, that's okay. I got so much going on. Yes. I will give you a formula sheet on the exam. Yeah. That way you don't blow a problem just because you missed the single formula. Yeah. Yeah.
Except for the final, all our other exams, it's just going to be this 50-minute time period.
Yes. Yeah, and time is a problem for everybody. It's tough to get through all the problems in that 50 minutes. So it can't be the first time you've done those problems. You got to really focus on the homework and be comfortable with it. And
How long did you say it was?
50 minutes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Last one.
I didn't hear the question. What did you say about?
Oh, yeah. So sometimes there's note cards or whatever in some classes. In this class, I'm going to go ahead and give you the equation sheet. So there'll be a periodic table. It has all conversions, pounds to whatever, grams and so on. And then some equations on the back of that. So there's not a lot of equations in this class. The ideal gas law, the Clausius-Clapeyron equation is really complicated, and that would be one that people would mess up, you know. And so I always make sure I get it right when I have to look it up. You know, I can write it out, but there's a plus minus question on the order of some things, and so I want to make sure that I get it right every time. And so I use an equation sheet. I look those things up, and so I'll make sure you guys have a reference for those equations, and that way, yeah, that's what we'll do. All right, I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday.
If you want the link to the document, the paper is going to be right